Hope you're having a good day today. We're going to do a little session today about jigs. Which jig head do you choose? They're all kinds. You can go on eBay, Amazon, and everybody's selling jig heads. There are different kinds you can purchase. One kind that I use quite a bit, was this type here. You'll notice it has the little hook on the top. You put the jig on kind of sideways, and you twist it around once you get past that point, or when you get to the head, you twist it, and it's supposed to hold the jig. Well, it does it for a limited time. It doesn't last very long. So this is okay. So I have to use those if you'd like. Then there's the other kind that has plastics on it, little plastics. Sometimes there are too many of them. It might hinder the bite and catching the fish if you leave them on. So it pays here on these little strands to cut some of them out, maybe leave 2 or 3. And that way when the fish bites down, it's more flexible and he can get the point of that hook stuck in his mouth where you can bring him in the boat. So there is that type as well. I received some jigs in the mail the other day. I'd called this gentleman in Georgia, and he sent me some jigs, and I want you to look at these. Now, these are wire jigs, light wire. In other words, when you use these and you get hung on a dock, if you're dock shooting, pulling that jig back and letting the rod throw it under the dock, where the crappies are many times, then this is handy because these hooks will bend somewhat. Let me see if I can find one here. Let me get one of the larger ones off the card. And you see how these are made. That's a number 2. And he has these jigs in 1/32, 1/24 mainly. 1/32 mainly what I use unless the wind's blowing a lot. And then I may use a heavier jig where it'll drop down just a little, a jig head where it'll drop down some. But you'll notice this. Now, if I get that hung on a dock or something, I want you to notice how that will, if you can see it because of my finger, it'll bend back. You can't see it, but it'll bend back. In other words, you can pull it off if you get hung, and it's easy to do as long as your hook will bend. If you have those real tough hooks, strong hooks, and you get hung under a dock, then that's it. You're going to have to break your line more than likely. So what I plan to do is work on some of these, and I'll use them even when it comes to dock shooting. This is August. We'll be dock shooting for long when that water temperature drops and the crappies move in. So I will be using these. Now, what you can do, and I saw this from Gene the Fishing Machine, you can take these. He has them with a little barb at the top there to kind of catch a jig, or he has them just plain. You're about as well off to just get it plain, and what you do, you wrap this around it. This is nothing but dental floss. It's not that expensive. So as far as that hook goes back, before it starts bending, I want to run this. See what I'm doing. Now I'll take it back a little bit more, get a good layer. Probably pay not to get it too layered, but so what you do is clip that. All right, and then on the head, we've got a little excess there. So we're going to clip that off at the head. Now what we're going to do is take, and I use Loctite super glue. We're going to take the Loctite, and if I can get it off of there. Sometimes that glue settles and dries on it. But anyhow, what I'll do is take the jig, and then all the way from the front to the back, I'll put a little bit of this super glue. Now, this will work even better than having a little barb. If you do this, put the super glue on it, You see what I'm doing? And you just let that dry a little while. Don't put too much super glue, just enough to tie all those strings together and where there are cracks to get it down on the wire. And if you'll do that, then all you got to do is slide your jig, start it sliding on. When you get it so far here, you put the glue and slide it on up. And that'll handle a lot of crappie bites. You won't be having to change jigs so often or having to pull the glue out over and over and over and re-gluing. That'll make quite a difference. But let me tell you about this gentleman that's doing the wire hooks that I talked about. And again, you know, he has mainly 1/32 and 1/24. You can see that, and various colors. This is not all of his colors, but that's some of them. Now, if you're interested in that light wire jig, remember, it is a light wire jig. If you're interested in that, you can contact this gentleman on the card. There's the information, and I'll read it out to you. This will be Mr. Curtis Hobbs. His website is lightwirehooks.com, and his phone number is 478-308-9505. So whether he does make them with the little catch where you slide the jig up and turn it a little, and it holds it for a while. But he also makes them just straight wire hooks with the head painted. And by the way, his heads are baked on, and that makes them last. If you go miss shooting, which all of us do, no matter how good we are, we'll miss some spots under the dock and we'll hit the side of the dock. Well, if you just paint that on with your hand, that's not the same as having it baked. So this gentleman bakes that paint on the head, and then of course the wire hook is bendable. You can bend it. There's one smaller. It's easier to bend. You see, I can bend it back, but then it's easy to bend it back into place. And you can hold a good sized crappie on these hooks. Let me show you his card one more time. In the spring and the fall, we're jigging. Throwing the jig, and we'll throw it in. I throw mine into the dock, under the docks, and wherever the shade is. Crappie like shade, they like cover. So we'll use the jig that way in the spring and the fall. But then in the summertime, a lot of times we use minnows. It's not a shame to me to use a minnow if I have to. I won't catch fish. So if they're not biting the jig, then we use a minnow to attract them and to get the fish into the boat. I hope you enjoy your crappie fishing, and I hope it's beneficial to you, that you get some good food for you or somebody else. And by the way, here in North Carolina, Marion, North Carolina, we call them crappies. Some people call them crappies, but we look at the spelling C-R-A-P-P-I-E, and we get crappie out of it. Well, whatever you call them, I hope you do good in your crappie fishing. Thanks for watching.